Okay, I think we should be alive. But I don't see any. Okay. Hey folks, can you type in the chat you here as well? Okay, so we get started. Hello everyone, and welcome to the first Windows Dev Chat community call. We're excited to have you here, whether you're joining us live or watching the recording. My name is Gleb. I'm software engineer at Microsoft, and I'm not a professional speaker or streamer, but I'll be a host on this call. And I'll do my best to help my colleagues to show you some cool stuff today. If everyone is okay with that, grab your favorite drink and let's kick this off. Before we start, I'd like briefly talk about our goals. We aim to use this series to introduce you Windows Dev tools and platforms. We want to update our community with the latest, and we'd love to hear your feedback to keep improving. We'll introduce you to the tools, products, and frameworks we believe will improve your developer experience building apps on Windows. Our ultimate goal is to build friendly community, encourage discussions, and get your feedback to help us improve. Let's get started. In today's agenda, we have three sections: Dev Tools, Dev Platforms, and Demos. We have an amazing lineup of presenters who will showcase for you. Don't forget to stick around until the end for Q&A section, resource links, feedback, and next steps. First, let's talk about DevTools. Our first presenter is Craig Lowen, and he will walk us through Windows subsystem for Linux, also known as WSL. Take it away, Craig.
Hey there. So thanks for joining us. Let's chat about what is the Windows subsystem for Linux and how does it work. WSL is a great way for you to run your favorite Linux tools, applications, and workflows all directly on your Windows machine. And the really selling point for WSL compared to a traditional virtual machine, like maybe running something in Hyper-V or VirtualBox or something to that degree, is it has a really high level of integration with the Windows operating system. So on the screenshot on the right, you are seeing we can run all of these different Linux distros simultaneously, like Ubuntu, Debian, OpenSUSE, and more. As well, you can access all of your files, both from Linux and Windows, vice versa, as you need them. And then last but not least, in the screenshot, we're also showing that you can run GUI apps. So you can run full Linux GUI apps, and they behave just like regular Windows apps on your machine. We have more integrations like GPU access, and we're always building out more ways to make it all feel like the same machine despite what tool you're running. And so thank you very much for hearing about WSL. I'll kick it over to the next presenter.
Thank you, Craig. Next up, we have Bridget Tufers, who will introduce us to DevDrive. Over to you, Bridget.
So DevDrive is a new form of storage volume that has up to 30% better performance. And there are three main contributors for that performance. One is the resilient file system for improved file I/O operations. And the second is performance mode for Microsoft Defender, which balances both performance and security by scanning asynchronously. And then the third is less filter drivers by default. And then if you do need filter drivers, there's controls over which ones are added to your dev drive. And then at the bottom of this slide, I mentioned block cloning, which is available in 24H2. I'll talk more about that during a quick demo later in that call, but it adds even more performance benefits and also some storage gains. Back to you, Gleb.
Okay, awesome. Now let's hear from Kyla Cinnamon and Charlotte Sönigsen, who will share insights on DevHome. Take it away, folks.
Cool, thanks, Gleb. So DevHome is the new hub-like experience that's on Windows, and it's intended to help you get your machine set up for development. It's open source on GitHub, it's fairly new, and it has a lot of great features that can help you be productive. It has a customizable dashboard with customizable widgets as well, and that you can plug into your GitHub projects and your Azure DevOps projects, and then have all your information in one place. It also has a machine setup tool that helps you get set up with the dev drive that Bridget just showed, as well as helping you install packages and clone repos. There's a environments tool that Charlotte's going to show us some updates with, but it helps you connect to Hyper-V and DevBox and other remote environments. And then we also have some Windows customization settings in there that are settings that are most commonly used by us developers that are more easily findable in DevHome. And then we also added some PowerToys utilities, so now they ship with Windows, and those are host file editor, environment variables editor, and registry preview. And we did have a recent release last month that I'd love to show you a little update of what we added. So here I have DevHome open, and I have navigated to the Windows customization, virtualization, feature management. And this is what's new. So you can now manage your virtualization features such as Hyper-V, Windows Sandbox, WSL, and have that all in one place here in DevHome. And I'm gonna actually send it over to Charlotte, who can talk more about the environment feature.
Cool. Thanks, Kayla. Let me just share my screen really quickly. So environments is section that we added to DevHome today. Section that we added to DevHome today. Easily access and manage all of your different development environments. Development environments. This allows you to access your local VMs such as Microsoft Hyper-V, as well as your cloud PCs like the Microsoft DevBox. And recently we've added the ability to access things like your Microsoft WSL environments as well. And so from this experience, you have access to all of these providers. If there are additional providers that you're looking for, this page is actually powered by extensions, and so you can go find additional extensions that will allow you to access other environments. From this experience, you have the ability to create new environments. You have the ability to set up configure your environment, those repos, applications that you want, all from this experience, as well as easily launch and connect to those. Back to you, Gleb.
Thank you, folks. Next, we have Ethan Funk, who will show us PowerToys. The stage is yours, Ethan.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Gleb. For those of you on the call, you may have just heard PowerToys mentioned a little bit in DevHome, but PowerToys, simply put, is just a set of utilities to help you maximize your productivity on Windows. So we've got almost 30 utilities or so, and they're all quite ranging in functionality. But one of the utilities that we demoed most recently at Build is Advanced Paste. And one of the great things about PowerToys is that we're open source, which means we not only have an amazing community and owe a lot of our functionality and amazing suggestions to the folks who help make PowerToys so amazing, but PowerToys also helps inspire and sometimes even puts utilities directly into Windows based off of feedback that we get on PowerToys utilities themselves. And so if you're interested in contributing to Windows, one of the ways that you can do that is by being a contributor to PowerToys. Because PowerToys utilities inspire Windows functionality, you as a contributor to PowerToys may end up inspiring Windows itself. We're available at the Microsoft Store, WinGet, and GitHub, and we love our community. So please, if you're willing, we'd love some suggestions on GitHub. And the last little bit I'll share too is PowerToys updates quite regularly, and we actually have a new version .84 coming soon, and that'll actually entail some demos in this presentation. So if you're willing to stick around, we have some new functionality coming in advanced pace that will be demoed by Craig. We also have some new work for WinApp SDK in 1.6 that will help us do some language override. And then the last little bit, and what I'm super excited about, is Connor will be also demoing a new utility for PowerToys called App Layout. So if any of that sounds interesting, please stick around to the end of this presentation. Thanks, Gleb.
Thank you, Ethan. Now let's hear from Christopher Nowen, who will present Windows Terminal. Over to you, Christopher.
All right. Hi, everyone. Windows Terminal is a feature-rich and customizable host application for your favorite command line shells like CMD and PowerShell. We're also open source project, so check us out on GitHub. Actually, now's a great time to mention that we have a 1.21 update coming on August 28th. This update includes features like buffer restore, which is super useful for restoring important terminal output, and some new advanced profile settings in the settings UI. You can actually try out these features today in Windows Terminal Preview, so let's check them out. So what I'm gonna do is actually share my screen. Okay, so now my screen is shared, I hope. Okay, there we go. Let's imagine that I have all this important that I want to preserve for my next session. What I can do is go to settings, go to my startup settings, and make sure that when terminal starts, it's set to open Windows from a previous session. So what I can do here is close my terminal, reopen it, and it's reopened. And if I go back to the PowerShell tab and I scroll up on my scroll wheel, you can see that the buffer contents have been restored. So now I pretty much remember what I did from my last terminal session and preserve these important logs. Next thing I want to talk about is some new advanced profile settings we have. So I'm going to go back to the settings UI, go to my PowerShell profile, click on advanced under additional settings. And we have some new settings like display a menu on right click, automatically mark prompts on pressing enter, launch this application with the environment block, and reposition the cursor with mouse clicks. I'm not going to be able to demo all of these new features in this call today, but what I will do is demo the right-click context menu and reposition cursor for fun. So I'm going to hit save to make sure my settings are saved, go back to PowerShell, add some text here, and as you can see, if I click on this text, the cursor repositions on mouse click. And also, if I do a right click, we can see that a right click context menu pops up. And if I highlight the text and right click, I get a few more options. So that's it for Windows Terminal 1.21. You'll see these features and more in your terminal on August 28th. So actually, let's go back to the PowerPoint and we can talk about Windows Terminal Preview. So next slide.
Yeah.
Okay, so Windows Terminal Preview. So this is the preview version of Windows Terminal. And also on August 28th, we have the Windows Terminal 1.22 preview update. And this update includes some new features like snippets pane and quick fixes in CMD. So I'm actually going to go back to sharing my screen and we can demo these things out. So you can actually demo and try out all those features I mentioned in Windows Terminal Canary, which is our Canary build, our nightly build of Windows Terminal. So let's look at the snippets pane first. So to invoke the snippets pane, I'm going to hit the drop-down menu, open up the command palette, and I'm going to search for the snippets pane and click here, open snippets pane. So this is my snippets pane. And if I expand, click on one of the items here, I can see like a command. So basically what snippets are snippets are just command line snippets. They're commands that I personally use every day and commands I personally find hard to remember. So I save them all as snippets in my settings.json file. So feel free to make snippets for all your favorite commands, all your difficult to remember commands, and use them in the snippets pane. So now that they're in the snippets pane, what I can do is press the play button, and this will input the command in my command line. The other feature I want to talk about is quick fixes in CMD. So if I go on CMD, and let's say that I enter a command like kubectl, hit enter. Obviously, I know that kubectl is not installed in my machine. That's why I'm getting this kubectl is not recognized error. But with quick fixes, what I'll also get is this little UI here. This is the quick fixes UI. So if I double click on it, I get a recommendation to use a WinGet command to install that missing package. So basically, what happens is when terminal detects that you enter a command and get a command that's not recognized error, and that command can be found as a WinGet package, we will give you a recommendation via quick fix. So really, this is just a feature to help you stay in your flow and not context switch whenever you run into these types of errors. That's pretty much what I have for my section. There's definitely more in store in Windows Terminal 1.22 preview, so get hyped when it comes out on August 28th. And speaking of WinGet, I'll kick it off to you, Roy.
Thank you. So what is WinGet? Well, WinGet is short for the Windows Package Manager. It's a command line tool that allows users to discover, install, upgrade, and configure applications on their Windows 10 or Windows 11 devices. It's developed by Microsoft and our software developer community on GitHub. As an open source project, WinGet provides a seamless and efficient way to manage software, making it an essential tool for developers, IT professionals, and casual users alike. With a catalog of over 4,000 packages ranging from development tools and productivity software to utilities, it has a lot of content for you and your users' devices. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about how it works. So to kick it off, WinGet operates through a simple command line interface using Windows Terminal. Thanks, Chris, for that demo. So users can use WinGet search to search for available packages that are listed in the store, our community, or their own private repository. You can also install any of the applications that you found. So in this case here, we're going to run through an install of VS Code. The install will grab the latest version of VS Code and put that onto the user's device. Boom, easily one quick step. Next, if you want to remove an application from your device, you can by typing in winget uninstall and that package ID. So let's go ahead and remove VS Code. We just installed it, let's get rid of it. And there you see, it's gone. Now, we want to find, do we have VS Code on our computer? We can find other items by using winget list. And then if we find out that, hey, we have some stuff on there, but we want to see, is there an update available? By running winget upgrade, we will list off every app that has an upgrade, and then we can choose to do an actual upgrade of it by just typing in winget upgrade figma.figma or package ID, which will fully update that application to its latest version that's available to us today. If you don't want to use just individuals, you can do them all. You can type in winget upgrade -- all, and this will update every application on your device. Now, who is WinGet for? Well, WinGet, it's for everyone. For developers, we see it as a game changer. It allows them to quickly set up their development machines by installing essential tools and libraries with a single command. This efficiency reduces setup time and enables developers to focus on what they do best, writing code. Even casual users have an advantage to using this. You see that we have the ability to set up your new computer or simply just install software to make sure that it's up to date. You can run that WinGet upgrade, get all the updates you need onto that device. We're not just a Microsoft product. We are developed by Microsoft, but we are also developed by our GitHub community software developers who have contributed a ton to making WinGet what it is today. But not only just to our code, to our online package repository that has that 4,000 list of applications in it. If you're curious, please jump in and check out our two communities. You'll see we have the AKMS winget-CLI for our GitHub open source project, and we also have AKMS winget-pkgs to take a look and add any packages or software that you could not find in it today. You can go ahead and add it into that repo, and you can then use it afterwards and support others. So thank you for your time, and I encourage you, go explore, check it out, and enjoy all the benefits firsthand. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Roy. And that's all DevTools update for today. I'm scared to turn on the active speaker camera. Sorry for the mess. Everything was perfect before this run. And next up is our Dev Platform section. We'll explore some of the great app frameworks, what can help you to build Windows apps. Keep in mind what these just a few of the options available. We would love your feedback about app platforms you're interested to hear more about. And our first presenter is Michael Hawker, who will walk us through WinUI and WinApp SDK. Take it away, Michael.
Thanks, Gleb. Pleasure to be here. See if the camera updates, or you're just going to hide it. Okay, do people don't? Oh, there we go. Awesome. It's a pleasure to be here. As Gleb said, it looks like my camera zoomed in a lot. All right. No worries. I just put the hat. There we go. But no, as Gleb mentioned, we have a wide variety of different options for client development that you can choose from. All, whether you're building on Windows native experience, a cross-platform experience, or something with web technology, or trying to do some hybrid experience in between. And today we're going to just be talking a couple of these options and talk about more of these different types of options in the future. So again, your feedback is important to let us know what you're interested in hearing about and updates on these different calls over time. And start off with, I'm going to be talking about WinUI. And so WinUI is a development framework for creating native desktop applications using C++ or C#. It powers a lot of the key experiences on Windows, including applications you saw today, like DevHome. And it's optimized for modern experiences and hardware, supporting all the common processor architectures from x64, 80. Should be 82, right? It's early in the morning, I guess. Missed that. And ARM64. Anyway, and then the great thing about it is it's got modern UI theming and usability just built into it. And it's really easy to get started with the Windows application development workload that was added in VS 17.10. And like Gleb was saying, we've got the WinDev chat here. We've been doing the WinUI community calls as well this year. So we have our next one coming in September on September 11th. And we'll be talking more about the 1.6 release at that call. And if you're looking to just get started, that's aka.ms/WinUI. So a couple of the big things that are coming in 1.6, there's just actually a new preview dropped this week, and that includes the initial work for AOT, native AOT support. So if you're building a C# app, you can compile with the native AOT settings in order to trim out things that you're not using within your app to reduce the package size and increase startup time. And so this is an example of just an example app we built, and we saw that there was a 50% reduction in startup time. It reduced the package size 8 times if you're using the framework package where Windows App SDK is installed, kind of you're using the shared instance of that, or it was half the size if you included everything all together as a bundle. So really a lot of great optimization we're seeing here for applications using AOT, and we'll be able to share some more details as we get closer to release here. The other big thing in the 1.6 release that is in the latest preview is separating out WebView 2 from the Windows App SDK. And so what that allows, especially like if you're a WPF developer and you were wanting to rely on the Windows App SDK, which I'll talk about here in a second, for notifications, and you wanted to use the latest WebView 2, you're kind of stuck because WebView 2 was being included in the Windows App SDK. And so with 1.6 moving forward, those two will be separate and can be updated independently. So it'll be a lot better for you as a developer to pick and choose which versions of these libraries that you need. So what is the Windows App SDK? Since I've just been talking about it a bit, it's a way to enhance your native desktop applications, whether you're using C++ or C#. So if you're a Win32 app, or you're using WPF or WinUI or Maui or any other of these technologies like React Native, like Stephen's going to be talking about in a minute as well. The Windows App SDK provides this common set of APIs that allows you to incrementally adopt these new features and kind of put these new modern features that we're delivering into your application. It also is available on Windows 10, RS5 and above, and Windows Server 2019 long-term servicing. It doesn't need an admin install, so you can have your application take these new modern features in the Windows App SDK and still target all your users across these different versions of Windows. And it gives you power now to update this library and take on these new features within the SDK whenever you're ready to within your app. And so that's what this diagram on the right-hand side is showing, is like in the past, all the updates were happening in the OS and part of the Windows APIs here. And so you were reliant on you updating your OS to be able to access those features as a developer, but then your users also updating to the latest version of the OS to be able to use those. And now with the Windows App SDK, we ship this as an independent part, just like any other NuGet component or library you might be picking up, and you can control that as the app developer about which version you're using when you're updating, and that those features are now going to work across all those different versions of Windows, and your users are going to be able to use them. So there's a lot of different features here. So if we look at the next slide, we'll see, the Windows App SDK includes WinUI, but it's not something that you necessarily have to use, right? You can use this if you're doing WPF or C++ development with just Win32. You have a lot of different options here. And as we said, we pulled out WebView 2, so it's its own component now that you can update independently as part of the 1.6 update. And there's a lot of different features here, like if you want your application to be more battery efficient and respect when it's not being used or in the background and understand that that's happening, we have lifecycle APIs. There's APIs if you're trying to modernize different pieces of your content and stick things together with different content. So we showed some of that stuff at Build. So I'd recommend looking at our Build talks if this is of interest to you. So we showed some of the island stuff there and what you can do with that, with putting different content like Lottie animations in a WPF application. We have adaptive cards. We have the app notifications I mentioned. So there's a lot of different APIs in here, including the new one that we've talked about at Build, the Windows Copilot library, which is still coming soon, unfortunately. But we'll have more information to share about that after our 1.6 release. But we're excited for people to find out about that. So we'll have just, stay tuned, and we'll hopefully have more to share in the near future.
Thanks, Michael. Now let's hear from Stephen Moyes about React Native. Over to you, Stephen.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, there we go. So Michael just talked about WinUI and WinApp SDK as being, the best way to make native apps for Windows. But what we found within Microsoft and within the ecosystem at large is that, a lot of these apps and experiences need to run everywhere. So one of the options that you can use for creating native apps using your React and JavaScript skills is React Native. What I want to highlight here is that it's built on top of WinUI and WinApp SDK. Like when you create a React Native for Windows app, you get a Windows app. It renders with the native primitives. It's not hosted in a web view. It's not, it translates your React and your JavaScript into the native components, which means that you get the native look and feel. It means you get the near native performance. So it's very positive from that perspective, and consistent with the way that it works, the way that React Native works on other operating systems, like on mobile, iOS, and Android, or on Mac OS. So what I wanted to highlight here is that React Native is a good option for you to consider if you want to make a cross-platform application, potentially using your web dev skills, but you still want or need full access to the native APIs. It's totally open source. React Native Core is contributed to by Meta and owned by Meta, but the React Native for Windows and React Native macOS actually platforms are they're within the Microsoft namespace. So, a lot of the Microsoft teams that I've listed here are depending on React Native for their desktop and mobile experiences, especially if they're running cross-platform. So if you're interested in learning more about React Native, maybe you have a React Native app already on mobile, or perhaps you've got a React.js experience that you might be shipping through something like Electron or other technologies. You can explore if it's useful to translate your experience to React Native for Windows. You can learn more at aka.ms/React Native. And yeah, I'm excited to see what you build. Thank you.
Thank you, Steven. And finally, Justin Willis will walk us through PWA, also known as Progressive Web Apps. Take it away, Justin.
Sure. All right. Let's see where I end up in the framing here. Progressive web apps will allow you to use your existing web developer skills. So if you know HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, you can use those skills to start building applications. These applications can be shipped to the app stores, such as the Microsoft Store and Google Play, which you can actually get started with over at docs.pwbuilder.com. And they are highly integrated with Windows. So we've done a lot of work. The Edge team specifically has done a lot of work to enable a lot of the features that you probably want in your desktop apps, like on-device AI with WebNN, which you can actually check out some demos for over with the link on the right. Real file system access, so like reading and writing files asynchronously if you want to, moving files around, renaming files, etc. Bluetooth, custom title bars, so you can have your own, icons and whatever other controls you want in your title bar, and many more features that allow you to kind of, build in those capabilities that you really want for a desktop application. These apps are fully cross-platform, so they run on any operating system. You have one code base that you write, and then because they are, using web technology under the hood, they can run on any operating system that has support for a modern web browser like Microsoft Edge. These apps also on Windows are MSIXs, so they're fully integrated into Windows, packaged as an MSIX, and like I said, can be shipped from the Microsoft Store, so your users can install and review your app just like any other application in the store. Yeah, if you're a web developer and you're looking to kind of reuse those skills, no matter what framework or technology tech stack you like to use on the web, you can use those skills to start building applications. So PWAs would be one way you can do that. Of course, we also support WebView 2, and a lot of the features I've talked about here also work in WebView 2. And yeah, we do have some apps that we've shipped as PWAs at Microsoft, such as Designer and Loop, which you may have used. And yeah, to get started and kind of learn more about PWAs, as there has been a lot of change over the years, you can go to docs.pwbuilder.com. And yeah, the on-device AI demos using WebNN, which you may have heard of at Build, I think are really cool to check out. Okay, cool. Back to you, Gleb.
Thank you, Justin. Now it's demo time. Today we have 3 great demos lined up just for you, and please welcome Craig Lowen, who will demo PowerToys Advanced Paste. Take it away, Craig.
Awesome. Let's take a look and see how you can use Advanced Paste in some of your workflows. So Advanced Paste is a new feature that we've shipped inside of Microsoft PowerToys. It was shipped this past build in May, and I wanted to show you what that would actually look like to use it on a day-to-day basis. Something I personally really like because it's changed the way that I interact with my computer, especially my clipboard. So we'll start with a really simple example. I have some XML data here just stored in Notepad with things like, CD definition and some fields inside of that, like what country the CD was from, etc. We have some built-in functions specifically for developers and for IT pros who often need to paste content in different formats. And so the ones that are built in, and these run locally via algorithms, are paste as plain text, paste as markdown, and paste as JSON. And so I can select paste as JSON, and I can get that content that's XML directly into JSON and have that paste into my application. So imagine if I was in an IDE, this would be really useful for me to just quickly create some training data, etc. On top of that, we can paste things directly as Markdown or plain text here. But really, my favorite feature of Advanced Paste is pasting with AI. So this is something that does require an OpenAI key and credits. But once you set it up, you can take and paste in any format you like. So for example, let's do something like paste as JSON and only include CDs where the year is above 1987, for example. And what we've done is taken that query and we've sent that up to OpenAI and we've gotten the result back. And so we're able to really intelligently create, okay, the only records that were above those years have been pasted here. And what I like about it is it's giving you a lot of freedom to paste in whatever format you'd like. So I can paste this as a Markdown table, for example, and I can take JSON content, put it as a Markdown table. I can even do things like, add a new column for chart placement and have that really quickly be able to iterate. And so on top of this, you can use this inside of Notepad. Some scenarios where I've actually used it specifically and really found it useful is it speeds up a lot of time for me to not having to parse things or not having to think about how to reformat things. So something that I do pretty regularly is time how long Linux commands take. And here you can see I'm timing, how long it took to run Python, how long it took to run Python 3. And the answers for these all get put right here. So they get put at the end as total time. And what I'd love to do is to take this and we're going to paste it as a CSV. So I'm going to type in paste as CSV. First column is the command that I ran, and second column is total time taken in seconds. And OpenAI is smart enough, and these large language models are smart enough to read and understand my output intelligently. So it's knowing this is the command I ran, sleep 2 seconds, and that took 2.01 seconds right here. On top of that, it can point out, like Python was here, and this is what the actual time was here. And so it just saves me a lot of time, and I don't have to worry about what format my clipboard is in or how to worry about it. I can just pull the information, describe exactly what I want, and go from there. We're looking at expanding this, making it a bit easier to add AI, as well as adding some more features. So please try it out in the latest version of PowerToys, and we would love to hear your feedback. I'll kick it over for the next demo.
Thanks, Craig. Next, we have Bridget Tufers with DevDrive Performance. Over to you, Bridget.
Thanks. And I have my demo as video content here in the slide. So I think that's getting started now. And shout out to Terminal for the command palette you see us using here. It's really exciting to shorten up using all of our commands. So the first example that's running now is copying a VHD file on the C drive, which is NTFS. And drum roll, please. It's going to take a few seconds. And maybe some elevator music. So that was almost 15 seconds. And now we're going to look at the size of the VHD file that's being copied. It's about 10 gigabytes, which is pretty decent. And then this is the block cloning example, which just took 0.15 seconds. So it's down from almost 15 seconds to a fraction of a second. And as I mentioned earlier, this is available in 24H2, so coming out publicly this fall. And the way that block cloning works is that NTFS copies each bit, but with block cloning, REFS instead does a metadata copy. And what that means is it adds reference counts to each region or cluster. And then when it's copying, no bits are actually duplicated, just the reference counts are increased and the record is changed in the file system metadata. And as you just saw, it's almost instantaneous performance and takes up significantly less storage. So I'll hand it back to you, Gleb.
Thanks, Bridget. Next, we have Connor Plant with PowerToys app layouts. Over to you, Connor.
Awesome. Thanks, Gleb. I will share my screen here. And so, yeah, let's do a quick demo of app layouts. When this actually comes to PowerToys in .8.4, it's going to be renamed as workspaces, but this is the temporary name that all our builds are under. So we'll call it app layouts for this sake here. So the goal of app layouts is really to allow you as a developer to get into your workspaces and your workflows easier with just one click and get your desktop all set up with just one click. So let's say I have this example desktop here. With PowerToys at the top right, terminal in the bottom right, and VS Code on the left. I do have another monitor, but I can only share one, and it is better this way. So let's say I wanted to save this whole layout. I can just open the app layouts or workspaces editor and hit create layout here. And what's going to happen is, similar to a screen recording, you'll see that there's this red bar around my monitors. It's on this one here. It's on the other external monitor on my left here. And pretty much I can do whatever I want now in the desktop to arrange these apps, open new ones, remove them, so on, and get it all set up the way I want. But, for the sake of this demo, it's all set up the way I want, and I can hit capture. And as you can see, we're now in this, sort of finalized and edited experience where you could see the desktop that I'm sharing on the right and the external one on the left. I'll remove Teams because I don't want it to be part of this project or this layout. And I want to just be left with what's on the screen here. And I could just say this now, but something that I really like to be able to do is to actually launch directly into the state that I want each application in. So for example, if I wanted to launch right into this foodocs.txt file, I can add that as a CLI argument to VS Code. And if I wanted to, for example, not launch into PowerShell, but if I wanted to launch terminal into maybe my Ubuntu profile, I could do that as well. Finally, we can create this layout as a desktop shortcut and name it something incredibly creative like my layout. And save it. And now we have a new layout. So if we close all these applications, you can see that our desktop layout is created, my layout right here. And if I double click, you can see it says, okay, we're launching all your apps. They launch and they reposition exactly to where I wanted them to go. So with just one click, I can now get into different desktop workspaces and layouts, get to where I need to go faster. Thanks. Back to you, Gleb.
Thank you, Connor. Thank you, folks. That was all demos we have for you for today. Yeah, before we wrap up, we want to make sure you have access to all resources you need. Please make sure to check this out for more information, tutorials, upcoming events. You can also find these links in the description. We'd love to hear your feedback, your insights, help us improve and bring more value to these calls. Please take a moment to give us your thoughts. And thank you so much for joining us today. While we are picking your questions from the chat, I'll mention what the recording of these calls will be available soon for you to revisit or share with others. Check out the calendar and our social networks to keep updated on the next call days. Let's see if any questions in the chat. First question from Morten. What happened to that AI SDK? What was just around the corner at build? Someone want to answer?
Yeah, Gleb, I touched on that a little bit in the chat of the Windows App SDK. There's a lot going on there, but yeah, the Windows Copilot library there that we mentioned will be part of the Windows App SDK. It's not something that will be coming with the 1.6 release. The focus is on there right now, but we'll have more details soon and share all that when we can. So just stay tuned with us and just we'll get you as much info as we can when we can. But it's being worked on and it's coming soon still. But yeah, just taking a bit longer than we expected originally when we had announced that build. So.
Next question from Arminder. Based on the previous diagram, does this imply what Windows has no current, no managed code development solution? This is actively being worked on, excluding Win32. That was to yeah.
I'll jump in. I saw one on the chat about what's the latest on WSL.
Okay.
And the latest update is we're adding enterprise features for the Windows subsystem for Linux. So to make it easier for IT admins and folks in an enterprise to actually be able to use it, including ways to monitor, manage, and interact with all of your different WSL distros. We also have tons of improvements for networking. We added a new networking mode called mirrored mode, which is an entirely new networking architecture that adds a lot of compatibility. So if you're running a VPN or something like that, you won't lose connection. And we also added improvements to the ability to do storage and disk space storage as well, and memory. So those will now automatically grow and shrink as you're using them. And last but not least, we have WSL settings, so a new GUI settings app, which is in the latest version of WSL on Insiders right now. And we also integrated WSL with DevHome's dev environments. So if you open up DevHome, you can interact with a GUI version to use WSL. So lots of different improvements there, and we have some more stuff coming in the pipe. So very excited to show more as it's available.
Okay, thanks. Let me see other questions. Okay, folks, do you have any specific questions to our presenters? I'm not sure what do you guys get it? I think maybe Michael, maybe it was the question for you about non-managed code. I can repeat that.
Yeah, so I saw the question. It was just it was asking about if there's non-managed code development solutions for Windows, and so that the latest for that would be WinUI. WinUI supports C++ as well as C#, as we kind of were talking about with the AOT solution there. But WinUI and the Windows App SDK also support C++ developers. So if you're looking for something more modern than like MFC to work with, or just using raw Win32 APIs in C++, then the WinUI framework will let you have that XAML experience with C++. And be able to develop with non-managed code for Windows. So that's kind of our latest offering in that space.
Okay. And questions from Jeannie. Are there any plans to make dev drive shrinkable? Bridget, can you answer on that one?
Yeah, there are some plans for I think the The naming is still being sorted out, but the storage team is I think I'm gonna have to be a little bit vague in my answer. There's not a lot of information to publicly share at the moment, but I believe the next call on this slide is shown in October. So if folks want to answer that question again or ask that question again, we'll be happy to give whatever update we have available at the time.
Okay. And the next one from Morten. With title bar not in the preview, does that mean it's at risk for not making it into 1.6? I think that's for Michael too.
Yeah, I think so in the preview 1 release notes, this was called out that we were taking some more time for the title bar. We wanted to make sure we were addressing some feedback. As you might have also seen, there's a lot of bug fixes in the change log, so there's been a lot of different moving parts here, and so we were really pushing out the title bar early in order to get that feedback from the community. And so that's something we want to be cognizant of and just not ship it out directly without being able to address some of that feedback. And so for that, we need a little bit more time. So we're looking at what options we have for that, but it won't be with the initial 1.6 release.
Thanks. And Wahid also asking about like roadmap for table view for WinApp SDK.
Yeah, table view, as I think we had shared in the initial roadmap for 1.6, was something that was spanning the 1.6 and the 1.7 development cycles. And so it's still something that we are tracking. And so we don't have any updates at this time. And so that's something we'll be looking into more as we get closer to moving into 1.7 once 1.6 ships. And we'll hopefully share more later this year.
Okay. Okay, guys, last call. Any more questions? Okay, folks, thank you again for joining us today, and have a fantastic day and happy coding.